Welcome everyone. So my hand plane shattered right as I was getting so close to finishing it. So let me walk you through the making of it and then I'll tell you what happened. So I started off with this little 1/16 inch chisels that I've been making, and I dropped one during the heat treat, excuse me, and ended up shattering and breaking the tip off. And I decided, you know what, it's still good steel. I'm going to turn it into something. And I figured a little instrument maker's plane with a 1/2 inch wide blade would just be the thing to do. And so I went ahead and just grabbed all the little pieces I had floating around, and I figured, yeah, this is what I'm going to make it out of. So I got the blade worked out to what it needed to be, and now I'm starting on the sole, and I'm making it from some brass scrap I had laying around, and I am just getting it all nice and square. And it's going to be a two-part sole, and it's split at the mouth. So I'm just going ahead and working it on the mill, and now I have this super fancy jig. Just double-sided taped that the rear part of the sole down to that, and just using a file to cut in the bed. And for the front part, I didn't need to be as precise, so I just drew lines and just kind of freehanded the file work there, and that worked out just fine. And now I'm using some silver solder to connect those two pieces. And for a bigger plane, you'd probably use like a finger joint, but for this small one, that silver solder is going to hold just fine. And now I'm just getting it nice and flat again, just in case it got any kind of misalignment during the silver soldering. And now it is back over to the mill to drill in some screw holes. So between the screws and the silver solder, I'm not worried about that sole separating at all. And so I went ahead, got all my holes drilled, probably did too many, and you can see them there. They are in a pattern that's more elongated, tear-shaped, because I'm going to trim a bunch of that away later. But first, I need to work on the main part of the body, and what I have here is some artificial ivory. So it's actually a polyester resin that has been designed to look like ivory, so it can be used as a replacement, so you don't have to kill any elephants, which I think we could all agree is a pretty good thing, hopefully. Anyway, so I'm just going to work on that, chopping it up on the bandsaw, and then it is off to the mill to get it nice and square. And one thing that I found out with this is that it likes to chip off, and you got to use power tools really to do this. You can't really use traditional woodworking tools. It's fairly hard to cut with a handsaw. You can do it. It does not like chisels at all. But now it's over back to the drill press so I can drill for all the screw holes. And if you see, I got a couple wooden blocks there just clamped up because I learned the hard way that even this 1/16 inch drill can chip out those holes, and I lost about an inch chunk because it broke. I think it kicked weird and it caught or something, and a whole part of the side just broke off. So I ended up having to remake it a couple of times to get to that point. And now it's on to relieving the inside area to hold the blade and the wedge and stuff. And I started off in the drill press, got a couple holes drilled for it, and then went over to the mill, and I'm just trying to relieve out the body, cut most of this in on the mill with this super secure setup. And I took it as far with the mill as I could, and then it was on to using just files and floats, trying to get enough space in there to get the wedge and for the blade. And it was just a lot of filing and then test fitting and then filing and test fitting. And I eventually got it, and now I'm going to work on the crossbar, kind of like you would have with a Krenov style plane. I couldn't figure out a way to do like a traditional, like you would with a traditional smooth wooden plane where you'd have the cheeks to help hold in the wedge. I figured it might be a little too fragile to really try to do that. And so I figured, you know what, we'll just do this crossbar. So I designed it to be like a two-part system where it's going to have a crossbar and a sleeve, and then I can lock those two pieces together, and hopefully that crossbar doesn't work its way out later. That was the plan, and so far, looking pretty good. And we're just going to go ahead and test that out right here. Kind of see how that would work. And that pin there is tapered, and so as it just has a little slight taper in it. So as you drive it home, it kind of locks more to that collar. And it can't really just work itself out. And just doing some test fitting, and it's holding just under finger pressure. Everything's looking real good. My idea seems like it's going to work, so I figure, you know what, we're going to keep going with this, and we're going to kind of take things and start getting everything refined. So first up there was getting that wedge nice and cleaned up, nice and rounded over, so it looks halfway decent. And this was all just basically belt sander work because you can't do it with anything else. And you can kind of see the shape that I have in there. I didn't want a perfectly square thing. I wanted more of a kind of a football shape on the sole, and I'm taking it like 80% of the way right now, and then I'm going to attach the sole to the rest of the body, and then we'll take the rest of the way. And now I'm coming in, and I'm just relieving a bunch of material here just on the mill. And the idea is I kind of wanted to make it look like a Dutch smoothing plane. That was the idea. And so I'm just getting a bulk of the waste just away. So that just means there's less stuff I have to do with files. And now I just want a little extra security with all of this, and I'm just using some two-part epoxy to make sure that those screws have a really hard time of working themselves out later, because I'm going to file the heads down here in a second, and they're going to, if they ever work themselves out, they're going to be very hard to put back. So that is the plan, and it seems like it's all working. So I went ahead and just they're left just a little proud, so I can file them flat. And I'm just taking this part kind of slow because I don't want to end up filing the sole out of flat, because it's going to, as I have to reflatten it, it's going to open that mouth up, and I don't want it. And now it's time to permanently lock the crossbar to that sleeve. Got it all set up. A little bit of Loctite is in there, retaining compound, so that can, a little extra security down the road. And it started moving, and then it started, it wasn't quite working. And at this point, everything goes wrong. Oh man. And that's the result. It didn't look that bad until I really started looking at it, and then it just started crumbling in pieces around me. And so let's talk about what happened. I was installing this crossbar here, and this crossbar feeds up onto this little piece of copper. And the idea was that this crossbar had just a slight bit of taper in it, and as it goes into the copper, it would actually lock itself down, and then that way it couldn't slide back out easily after everything was complete. I thought it was a pretty good idea. The problem was that when I went to install it, I started installing it backwards, and I didn't catch it until I had driven the copper sleeve all the way through the side of the plane, and then it shattered spectacularly. Probably a good thing that it broke. I'm pretty excited about the new design that I'm working on, and I wouldn't have done it if this wouldn't have gone sideways on me. So, silver lining. At any rate, again, thank you for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next one.